Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Okay, thank you. Let's continue Master Shenhua's tapes.
然后呢，就对他说了，说完呢，他一想，不要再在这贪图这种供养了，应该走了。
The king forgot and grew apart from him. Grew apart. He thought that he shouldn't stay here to covet this support. It was time to leave.
一走就走到这个地边谷，地边谷很多的佛教徒都是一些小乘。
He left and arrived at Kupon. There were lots of Buddhists in Kupon who were all studying Hinayana.
所以对他都没有什么缘，他就又走到秋瓷国，到秋瓷国住了一个时期，以后啊。
Therefore, they didn't have many conditions with him. So he walked to Kutcha. He lived in sorry, I have a hard time pronouncing the name. He lived in Kusha for a while. Later, he was there. This is the end of this file.
Okay, questions or comments? So he's Mahayana, but he has no conditions with Hinayana. What kind of Mahayana is that? Mahayana includes Hinayana. There should be no distinction. That's okay. Let's continue.
Later, he was here. He taught and transformed on a large scale. He taught and transformed living beings.
人呢很相信，相信呢。他在这个地方住了一个时期，又想要到中国。
Many people believed in him. They believed in him very much. They lived there for a while, and then he wanted to go to China again.
中国啊，当时有个西凉，那个西凉的地方啊。大约现在新疆的地方。
In China, at that time, there was a North Liang, a place called North Liang, approximately the area of today's Xinjiang.
那儿有一个人呢。叫独具蒙逊，在那成国王，成王，成王啊，很相信佛教的。
There was a person named Juju Menshun. He was the king there. He was the king. He believed in Buddhism very much.
他到这个地方来呀，这个独具蒙逊呢，就对他很恭敬、很供养，因为早就闻。
So, he came to this place, and Juju Menshun was very respectful to him and made offerings to him.
那也听见他这个名字，就供养他。
Because he heard about him long ago, heard about his name. He made offerings to him.
这个供养他，他就在这儿啊，也是教化众生。
He made offerings to him. So he stayed there and taught and transformed living beings as well.
因为他善于念咒啊，他又可以看见鬼。那么有一次啊，他就对这个独具蒙逊就讲了。
Because he was good at reciting mantras and could also see ghosts. So, one time, he told Juju Menshun, he said,
他说很多这个瘟疫的鬼，现在到这地方来了。这独具蒙逊的是。
he said, there are many plague ghosts that have come to this place now. This Juju Menshun said.
我不相信有鬼你要如果能看，我能见一见呢，我就相信了。他说那好，你让你见一见。
Oh, I don't believe in ghosts. If I could see them, then I would believe. So he said, okay, I will let you have a look.
然后果然呢，这个独具蒙逊呢，就看见这鬼，看见鬼就喝的不得了。
Then, sure enough, Juju Menshun saw these ghosts. He saw these ghosts and was scared out of his wits.
然后他就念咒，念了3天咒，这鬼就没有了。
Then he recited mantras. He recited mantras for 3 days, and the ghosts disappeared.
当时也就有人看见呢，有很多这个瘟疫鬼呀。
Then, at that time, there were people who saw many plague ghosts.
瘟疫鬼就是人得这个病就会死的。这种鬼没有了，这大家。
Plague ghosts are the ones that if people get infected with this disease, they would die. Such ghosts disappeared.
And I thought the plague was transmitted by rats. Huh? So what happened to the rats? Anyway, there's so many details that's lacking. Continue.
都知道啊，这是这个法忏法师的功德。
Everybody knew that was the merit and virtue of Dharma Master Fa Chan.
那么，在这时候啊，这个足具蒙逊就派他儿子到其他的国家去作战去。他这个儿子呢，是兴国。
Then, at that time, Juju Menxun sent his son to another country to fight in the war. His son's name was Xingguo.
殊不知和人一作战呢，就被人捉住，给捉住。和谁作战呢？和这个木墨。
Little did he realize that once his son fought in the war, he was captured. He was captured. Who was he fighting against? It was Mu Mo.
他这个儿子啊，被敌人给抓住，又没有好久呢。另外有一个叫赫连勃勃的，就把这个默默这个国也给停了。
His son was captured by the enemy. Not long after that, He Lian Bobo repressed Mu Mo's country.
这作战呢，木墨这国，就输了。那么在这个烂军之中啊，就两国的兵啊作战的时候啊。
During the war, country Mu Mo lost. Within the chaotic armies, when the two countries' armies fought.
把这个蒙具族，这个足具蒙逊呢，儿子就给杀了，被这个烂兵就给杀了。
They killed Juju Menxun's son. He was killed by the chaotic armies.
杀了这个足具蒙逊大怒，说我这一生我就信佛。
When he was killed, Juju Menxun was furious. He said, "For my whole life, I only believed in the Buddha."
我一点都没有灵验为什么你不保护着我这个儿子？
This Buddha is not efficacious at all. Why didn't you protect my son?
从此之后他就下命令，叫这个不过50岁的所有的和尚都要还俗，都不要再做和尚。
From then on, he gave an order for all monks and nuns under 50 years old to return to the lay life. They are not allowed to be monks anymore.
过50岁的可以，他 正在这个下这个命令的时候啊，
If they are over 50 years old, then it is okay. When he was giving this order,
他在以前给他母亲造一个石像，用石头啊给他母亲造一个石像，几丈高。
he built a stone statue of his mother in the past. He used the stone to make the statue for his mother, which stood a few yards tall.
啊，正在这个时候，他母亲那个石像就哭起来了，啊，眼睛就出眼泪，鼻子就出鼻涕。
At that time, his mother's statue started to cry. Tears came out of the eyes, snot came out of the nose.
啊，痛哭流涕的，这虽然没有声，但是这个眼泪啊和鼻涕都流下来。
Cried its eyes out. Although there was no sound, but tears and snot all came out.
他一看这种情形，并且这个法忏法师也劝他，说是啊，你不应该这么做。
This is not Dharma Master Fa Chan, actually. This is Juju Menxun saw this, and Dharma Master Fa Chan advised him. And Dharma Master said, "You should not do this."
这不是佛没有灵验，这是因为因果的关系，不可以避免。
This is not because the Buddha is not efficacious, but because of cause and condition. It cannot be avoided.
然后这个足具蒙训就没有叫这个50岁以下的，这个不够50岁的都还许，没有下这个命令。
Then, this Juju Menxun didn't make the ones who were under 50 years old, those who were under 50 years old, to return to the lay life.
以后啊，他就在这儿弘扬佛法。弘扬佛法呢，
He didn't give that order. Then later, he propagated the Buddha Dharma here, propagated the Buddha Dharma.
这时候是魏国就是曹操那个，听说这个法忏法师
At that time, the country Wei was Cao Cao's country.
和鸠摩罗什法师是那么聪明。
They heard that this Dharma Master Fa Chan had as much wisdom as Dharma Master Kumarajiva.
有智慧，也和佛图登呢那么有神通，就派人呢来这个和这个足具蒙训来要他，说如果
And as much spiritual penetration as for Tudun, then Wei sent envoy to ask for Juju Menxun for him.
你要不把这个法忏法师送来呀，不叫他来呀，我们就要用兵来同你战争了。
The envoy said, "If you don't give this Dharma Master Fa Chan to us, if you don't let him come, we will will go to war with you.
兵士相见，我就要发兵。
We will meet you with our soldiers. We will send soldiers.
这个因为这个祖具蒙逊对这个法忏法师是非常的舍不得，他也不派他去。曾经又当。
Because Juju Menxun really can't let go of Dharma Master Fa Chan, he didn't send him over.
这几年呢，这魏国又派了一个大官呢，叫李顺，又来和他要，就封这个。
A few years later, Country Wei sent another high official named Li Shun to ask for Dharma Master Fa Chan.
这个魏国啊，就封这个足具蒙逊呢，做这个凉州牧，就是两广啊，又送给他很多东西。
Li Shun said that they will offer Country Wei, Juju Menxun, the position of Liangzhou Mu, aka the king of Liang, and give him lots of things. And gifted him lots of things.
结果还是干什么呢？还是和他要这个法忏法师。这个足具蒙逊就请这个魏国这个使臣呢，就是请他吃饭。
At the end, what was he after? He still wanted this Dharma Master Fa Chan. This Juju Menxun then invited the envoy to a meal.
请他吃饭呢，在吃饭的时候，就对他说了，说这个西凉的老臣呢，就说我呀。
Invited him to a meal. During the meal, he told him, he said, this old minister of the North Liang,
很老的一个人了。你想要这个法忏法师，我无论如何呀，我舍不得叫他去，因为他。
That was to say, I am a very old man. You want this Dharma Master Fa Chan, no matter what, I cannot part with him. I cannot let him go.
是我的门师，也是我的老师。
Because he was my first teacher. That's my teacher.
如果你一定要，我认可呀，和我这个老师一起就死了给你看，也不能叫他去。
If you must have him, I would rather die with this teacher to show you, than to let him go.
看这个李顺说你呀，皇帝对你这么样好，又封你的做王，又送给你东西，无非就。
Then this Li Shun said, you, the emperor is so nice to you. He offered you to be a king and gifted you things.
想要这个法忏法师，你何必因为一个胡人，你把你自己的江山都不顾了？
He just wanted this Dharma Master Fa Chan. Why would you neglect your own kingdom for a foreigner?
你这个就是和他一起死了，死也没有价值啊！ 这有什么意思？要是我才不像你这么做的。
Even if you die with him, there is no value in your death. What's the point? If I were you, I wouldn't do so.
你现在皇帝这么对你好呢，你应该把这个法忏法师派去啊。
Ah, you. Now the emperor is so nice to you. You should send this Dharma master Fa Chang over.
这个如去蒙逊说不能够，这个他是我这国家的最要紧的一人，我不能叫他去。
This Jujun Xun said, "No can do. He is the most important person of my country. I cannot let him go."
但是他又怕这个魏国，这样又舍不得派这个法忏法师去。
He was afraid of this country Wei, but also reluctant to send this Dharma master Fa Chang over.
就这样子呢，又过了一个时期。过一个时期，这个法忏法师啊，
Then, like that, after another period of time, this Dharma master Fa Chang,
本来他回印度去一次，在印度住过1年。这一次他又要回印度去。
originally, he went back to India once, lived in India for a year. Then this time, he wanted to go back to India again.
这个独具蒙逊呢，就很不愿意他走，又很发脾气。不愿意他走呢，就会。
This Jujun Xun was very reluctant to let him go and lost his temper again. Ah, he was reluctant to let him go.
怎么样？就预备刺客，刺客就是偷着去杀人的人，这叫刺客。要半路被他杀了他。
Then what? He prepared an assassin. An assassin is a person who kills others secretly. That's an assassin. He wanted to kill him on his way.
在这个时候，这个法忏法师还没走呢，之前就对大家哭起来，说我的业障啊，对头来了。
At that time, before this Dharma master Fa Chan left, he cried in front of everybody, said, "My karmic obstruction, my enemy is coming."
现在呀，来找上我来了，这是啊，就是佛菩萨也救不了我了，没有法子了。
Now he has eyes on me. This is, even the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas can't save me. There is no way.
但是我的愿力呀，是要去找这个《涅盘经》的后分，我也不能因为这个业报来了，我就停留在这。
But my vow was to find the later chapters of this Nirvana Sutra. I can't stay here because this karmic obstruction is coming.
所以就走了，这个独具蒙逊呢， 就派这个刺客，本来他足具蒙逊送给他很多的值钱的东西。
So he left, and this Juju Menxun sent an assassin. Originally, Juju Menxun gave him lots of valuables.
送给这个法善法师，但是他在半路上又派去一个人偷偷把这个足具蒙逊杀了，把所有的宝。
He gifted them to Dharma Master Fa Chan, but on the way, he sent a person to secretly kill Dharma Master Fa Chan.
宝物又拿回来。那么这个时候，这个法忏法师仅仅才49岁，49岁就死了。
And take back all the valuables. At that time, Dharma Master Fa Chan was only 49 years old. Only 49 years old when he was killed.
他死了之后啊，这个足具蒙逊的左右这些个人呢，就天天看见呢，有这个鬼神呢，拿着宝剑斩这个足具蒙逊。
After he died, Juju Menxun's attendants saw there were ghosts and spirits holding swords, chopping Juju Menxun every day.
过了没有好久，那一年4月，这个足具蒙逊也死了。
Not long after, the same year in April, Juju Menxun passed away as well.
他没死，这个法忏法师没死之前呢，有过这么一回事。当时啊，有一个出家人叫道进，修道的。
Before he passed away, before Dharma Master Fa Chan passed away, there was a left-home person named Dao Jing.
道，果尽这个尽。就像这个法忏法师啊，求他给受这个菩萨戒。这个法忏法师就叫他说：“你自己去忏悔了。”
He requested Dharma Master Fa Chan to transmit him the Bodhisattva Precepts, and Dharma Master Fa Chan told him to repent.
自己先去忏悔了。这个道净法师回去就忏悔，拜佛呀。
Told him to repent first. Therefore, Dharma Master Dao Jing went back to repent.
求忏悔，求了7天7夜，7天呢7晚间。
He bowed to the Buddha and sought repentance for 7 days and 7 nights. 7 days and 7 nights.
第8天呢，他又去见这个法忏法师去。一见这个法忏法师，这法忏法师。
On the 8th day, he went to see Dharma Master Fa Chan again. Once he saw Dharma Master Fa Chan,
发大脾气，就对打骂了一顿。
Dharma Master Fa Chan lost his temper big time and scolded him harshly.
这个 道尽了自己这当然是自己的业障太重了，所以这个法师不给受菩萨戒于是乎就一边坐禅一边修定。
Dao Jing thought his karmic obstruction was probably too heavy, so the Dharma master would not allow him to receive the Bodhisattva Precepts.
一边忏悔，做了3年。
Thus, he cultivated sitting Chan. He cultivated samadhi and repentance in parallel, and sat for 3 years.
3年的时间呢，他就做梦，梦见释迦牟尼佛呀，和这个一切十方的菩萨大众来给他受戒。
In 3 years, he had a dream. He dreamed Shakyamuni and all bodhisattvas from the 10 directions, the great assembly, transmitted him the precepts.
他不但他一个人做这种梦，他在一起的10几个人，都是得到这种的梦。
Not only he had this dream, more than a dozen of people who were with him all had such a dream.
他就去预备对这个法忏法师讲这种境界。
He then was going to tell Dharma Master Fa Chan to tell him about this state.
正来了呢，离这个法忏法师还有几十步远，这个法忏法师就既可以站起来，很。
He arrived and was over a dozen steps away from Dharma Master Fa Chan. Dharma Master Fa Chan immediately stood up.
惊奇地说：“善哉，善哉，你已经得到戒了。”那么这个虽然你得到戒了，可是
He said surprisingly, "Good, good. You've already obtained the precepts. This. Although you've obtained the precepts."
是现在我再给你做证，我就给你证明你的正式得到戒了，所以才。
But let me certify for you. I will certify that you've obtained the precepts formally.
在佛像前又给他受这个菩萨戒。
So, in front of the Buddha statue, he transmitted these Bodhisattva precepts to him again.
当时这个长安有一个沙门叫道朗，这个道朗呢，也是在梦中好像这个道尽这种境界。
At that time, there was a shamana named Dao Lang. This Dao Lang experienced similar state as Dao Jing in his dream.
在道尽做这个梦，也就是这一天，这个道朗也就有这种的梦。
When Dao Jing was having this dream, on the same day, Dao Lang had the same dream.
那相离得很远很远的，一样有这种梦，所以以后这个道朗本来他是个老资格，出家很早的。
They were very, very far apart, but had the same dream. So, this Dao Lang, originally, he was a senior. He left the home life very early.
他自己呀，叫这个道尽呢，叫师兄、法兄，他自己呀退到法界。
Later, he called Dao Jing elder brother, elder Dharma brother, and himself, fall back to the younger Dharma brother position.
在当时啊，这件事情，一般人都认为是很奇怪，所以以后的。
At that time, ordinary people all thought this event was very strange.
的这个道尽法师受戒的人呢，很多很多。
So later, there were many people who followed Dharma Master Dao Jing to receive precepts.
咱们这是这个法忏，大概这一生的事情。
Then, this is the outline of Dharma Master Fa Chan's life story.
Okay, so we just heard the story of Master Fa Chan. What do you think? It's tough, isn't it? You need to have spiritual penetration to impress the king. And the king has so many ups and downs. One day he believes, next day he doesn't. It's tough propagating Buddhism. Back then, these early monks had to impress the kings and the officials in order to get support. Yes, 5.
Chin asks, could Master explain what are the Bodhisattva Precepts and how are they practiced?
The Bodhisattva Precepts are special kind of precepts that both lay people and left-form people can receive. They're basically the different kinds of Bodhisattva Precepts, but the one that we transmit, the one that the Chinese system uses, are like 10 heavy precepts and 48, 10 major precepts and 48 minor precepts. Okay, and you can receive those precepts anytime. You don't need to even to take the other precepts, like 5 precepts or whatever. So there's different kinds of precepts. And these Bodhisattva precepts are actually kind of very strict. They apparently are designed to help the people practice the Bodhisattva path. Okay? And so they have certain things like, for example, the original Bodhisattva precepts, full Bodhisattva precepts, would have a sex precept where you cannot have sex whatsoever, not even with your wife. So it's pretty strict. And so later the Chinese removed that precept and they simplified, they took out some precepts and made them more suitable for lay people. And so nowadays most Chinese would receive those simplified or shortened precepts, so the fewer precepts, okay, among which would not have the sex precepts, okay. So that's what it is. These I suppose they're very good for the practice. But I find that they are not important, okay? Because of the different emphasis. Our emphasis is for you to become enlightened, and for you to build up your samadhi power. Our emphasis is never about spiritual penetrations like this Fa Chan, Dharma Master Fa Chan here. You have to understand at those times, like Master Sheno's times, they have to use those skills in order to impress people, to make an impression on them about Buddhism. So they have to show off. And there's a pitfall in that. Once you show off, you have to continue to show off. Okay? And people are more impressed about those strange things, those strange powers, instead of Buddhism itself. But they follow Buddhism because they are impressed with the spiritual powers, not because of Buddhism itself as a superior way of life. Okay, so that's what happened to these early monks and nuns. They really have to prove themselves. Okay, and that's how they become famous in the first place. So going back to the Bodhisattva Precepts, I think eventually we will transmit the Bodhisattva Precepts ourselves to help you. But without, they're not going to stop you from getting enlightened. With, they might help, but I just don't have time. Okay, so you can receive them anywhere else as well. We could do them as well. We just never had the time to do it. Okay, and now we have the manpower, we can do it, but we just don't have time. In particular, there's a mess thing about the sex precepts where you can never have sex at all, which is very, very tough thing to deal with. So even if we transmit those precepts, I doubt that many would be willing to take it. Okay, and I'm not interested in transmitting the abbreviated precepts. All right. Any other questions? Yes. One.
I believe I heard you once saying that you have to take all the precepts, the Bodhisattva precepts. It's not like the 5 precepts, that you can take only some of them.
Right. The Bodhisattva precepts, you have to take them all. That's why there are 2 versions. All of them versus the shortened version. And I don't like the concept of the shortened version. I believe that the original precepts, full precepts, were there for a reason. Okay, and if you're gonna go for it, go for it. Don't take the easy way out. Just like many of you, you are. Many of you have been fasting and practicing vigorously, and that's our trademark. You're supposed to work hard and suffer. Okay, then you if you're willing to endure it, then you see why. You're not willing to endure it, then you never know. Okay, so the same thing. If you take the Bodhisattva precepts, I prefer you take all of them, and then so that you eventually someday understand why. Don't take the short version, in my opinion. Okay. But yes, the Bodhisattva precepts you cannot you cannot be selective. You have to take them all. Unlike the 5 precepts, you can pick and choose. Bodhisattva precepts, you have no choice. Anything else? Yes, 7.
Thank you, Master. Admittedly, it was difficult to follow that story. There was a lot going on there.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that because even Master Xinhua is not clear in Chinese. There's sections where he says ta, ta, he. I have no idea which he is talking about. Or the sections where clearly the geography and the back and forth didn't make sense to me. And then the translation didn't help either. So I don't blame you. But what did you get out of it? The one thing I got out of it is all of you have samadhi power. For most people, they would fidget and say, oh, this is so boring, I don't get it. Why are we listening to this? This is what Caucasians do, They said, they question you. They say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? This is not a good use of my time. But no, all of you sat there like statues. It's pretty impressive. I was fidgeting myself. I said, well, it is really it's really dragging out.
There were 2 parts of the story that were interesting to me, or that I was interested to understand more about.
Okay.
The first part, and apologies, I'm not sure who's who in this, but I think it was Dharma Master Fachan's student who was afraid of an assassin who was coming to get him and called the assassin his karmic obstruction that even the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas couldn't save him from.
That part you don't understand?
I wasn't clear on who was afraid of the assassin.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about it. Okay.
Yeah, that part was interesting.
Okay.
The karmic obstruction through the assassin as a person was interesting to me.
Yeah, okay. Let's backtrack a little bit first. Okay, here's what happened. Master Fa Chan came to China, and the king heard of him, that Qu or something, Meng Qun, whatever, was impressed. He heard of his reputation, and therefore invited him to the court and made offerings to him and sponsored him. Okay, so Master Fa Chan's reputation preceded him, so that's why the king was impressed and made offerings to him, and so treated him very well. So that's how Fa Chan was able to teach people. Okay, now to me, right there is a problem. Before he stopped in a country in India where he says, these people are Hinayana people, I have no conditions with them, let's move on. Okay, you don't have conditions with them, you create conditions with them. Okay, you don't just move on because it's too hard. Okay, but no, he moved on to China, and he met this king here who was enamored with him and sponsored him, so helped him propagate Buddhism. So basically, it's a state-sponsored Buddhism, in other words. Okay. And so the king not only supported him, but he also gave him money to build temples and endorse his teaching as well. Okay, and in doing so, you have this problem. This problem is that he's totally dependent on the king. Sponsorship. Okay? And so he went through periods where he had to prove his worth and convince the king that the king is wrong and he's right and so forth. Okay? One time, remember the king's son went to war, got captured, eventually got killed by the rebellious army, the rebellions and the people who did the rebellion. So the king got upset and said, I believe in Buddhism. Why didn't you protect my son? What good is Buddhism to me if you don't, you're not serving me, serving my needs? So now his Buddhism is like a royal Buddhism. It's no different from in Japan. Japanese Buddhism is imperial Buddhism. Unless the emperor sponsors you or the shogun supports you, and you get the support. And that's what I found shocking about Japanese Buddhism. They serve the emperor, they serve the shogun. And that's the condition for them to get the help, the imperial sponsorship. Okay? And so it's a Buddhism for sale. Okay? And that inherently will destroy Buddhism. Because Buddhism is not supposed to serve the royalty, the emperor, but it's supposed to serve all living beings. Okay? But back then, these people felt compelled to get the imperial support. Okay? Contrast that to, for example, Master Hsuan Hua. He came to this country with around $10,000, $15,000 from the sale of his condo in Hong Kong, where his disciple offered up to him years ago. Okay, so he sold his condo, and the disciple said, "Oh, you don't want to sell this condo; you want to hang on to it because it's going up. It's going up." So Master Hsuan Hua said, "No, I'm not about money. I need the money to go to the United States." So he sold it. So the disciple who gave it to him ended up buying from him. Okay? So anyway, so he got the money, he came to the U.S., no support whatsoever, just money in his pocket, and he went and rented a place and meditated. Okay? For 6 years. And apparently at the time, he recounted that every now and then he would go buy groceries or something, and a Chinese woman would stop him and say, "Oh, you monk who are living in that basement for these years, quietly." And so she talked to him, and he talked to her, and he liked it. So he said, "Okay, can I later drop by and give you some vegetables?" Okay, and so forth. So Master Hsuan Hua never sought any kind of sponsorship. Okay, so that's the difference in the Buddhism they're practicing, they're teaching. The Buddhism that Fa Chan was teaching was the Buddhism of the kings, okay, to serve the kings, and that's why he got in trouble. Because the kings are kings. They will like you as long as you're useful to them. Ask Donald. That's the way it is. Don't blame Donald. That's how kings are. And you want to serve them, they use you until you're no longer useful, then they move on. That's life. Okay. So this Fa Chan here has a good conditions with the king. That's why he stuck with him for a long, long time. And God knows what he had to do. Okay, the prior story is the king forgets. Unless you remind the king that you're useful to him, he's going to move on to another person. Okay? So it's like, to me, it's like daily servicing the king, or weekly or monthly at least, so that the king remembers you and still supports you. So eventually, he did very good job. The king really was very enamored with him and says, "You are my teacher." When you have a king who is so self-centered, say, "You are my teacher," I shudder. I would be so terrified, meaning that he owns me. Kings don't have teachers. Kings own things. Okay? I never heard of any emperor or king who have teachers. They own those teachers. So anyway, so he owned him, and he protected him and refused to give him up in spite of the other bigger countries coming over and threatening him and bribing him and paying for the monk. Okay? And that's how much he valued this Fa Chan. Until one day, Fa Chan says, "I don't want to be with you anymore." And that's what broke the relationship. When Fa Chan said, "I want to go back to my country. I don't want to be here with you anymore." So then the king says, "You're rejecting me. We cannot have it, can we?" So he says, "I tell you what, because I'm the king and you're my teacher. I've been telling people you're my teacher and so forth. Okay, my revered teacher. So here, look at all the gifts I'm giving you. Okay, everyone, look, I'm giving all these gifts. That's how much I revered my teacher. So off you go. I honor you. You want to go back to India? Go back to India." And then at the same time, he arranged for some assassin to kill him halfway. So he wanted to wait. He decided for him to wait. He waited so that he's far enough from the kingdom, from the capital, so that it seems like he's disconnected, so that then he killed him and then recover all those gifts, okay, those gems. So that's what happened. Okay. Now, Fa Chan is no idiot. He knew. He says, "Well, my karmic obstruction has come." Because, in other words, he says, "This is my own doing. Okay, I created this monster. He's attached to me. Okay, now I can't leave him. Okay, but I have to leave because I cannot stay here. I've done my work here. There's not much more I can do here. Okay, so I'm leaving regardless. But I know that if I leave, he'll kill me. Okay, it's just like you get married. You live with someone long enough, you should know, how the person will react if you try to divorce him. Okay, so he knew that the king was killing him. So that's why he said, my karmic obstruction is coming, and there's nothing I can do about that. Okay, and so he left and to be killed. Okay, so that tells you that this monk here, knowledge about Buddhism is pretty limited, and the tools he has are pretty limited. They're more geared towards developing spiritual penetrations to impress people. Okay, instead of benefiting people, it's more to impress people, and that's how Buddhism got started in China, I guess. Okay, so that's the thing. He says, my karmic obstructions came and I cannot escape this. Basically, he says the king wants to kill me, so not much I can do. He owned my life for the last 10, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. So he can claim it now. Okay, this. He could have called Guanyin Bodhisattva, he could call other people, because that's what Buddhism is about. Buddhism is not about yourself, it's not about us alone. We are part of this this big network, this big mechanism to help living beings. We only a small part of it. So do not think so highly of yourself. He should think of himself as Fa Chan should have thought of himself as just this tool here they use to convert that king, and that's about it. But there's a more to Buddhism than just that. And because he didn't understand that, that's why he said, it's my, the king wants to kill me, so I have no choice but die. Okay, he could have asked for help from Buddhas and Bodhisattva, but no, he chose to say, it's meant to be. It's meant to be. All right, does it help make it clearer? What was the second thing?
Thank you, Master. Yes, that was very helpful. The second part was, and again, apologies for the confusion. It was like a lay person wanted to take the Bodhisattva Precepts, and then another person, they both experienced a dream state. I don't think it was Dharma Master Fa Chan. I think they were asking him about the dream state, but then I never heard a resolution or an explanation to that part of the story.
Okay, good question. So what happened is there's a guy who, Dao Jing, Dao Jing, it's Dao Jing, a monk who wanted to receive the Bodhisattva Precepts. Chinese love to do that. Okay, they receive these Bodhisattva Precepts, but I don't think many of them understand what the Bodhisattva Precepts are and how to cultivate them. Okay, but anyway, Chinese love to do that. It's in their blood. Yeah. Master Fa Chan says, in order for you to receive the precepts, the first thing you need to do is to repent. Okay? And so Dao Jing repented. Okay, he repented 7 days or whatever, however long, and eventually, even after a week or 8 days, he still Fa Chan was still not happy. So Dao Jing continued to repent, meditate, and repent for 3 years. Okay, and that's when this strange state occurred, where as he was repenting and meditating and repenting, he saw a vision of the Buddhas and Bodhisattva coming. Okay, so he immediately went to see Fa Chan, and Fa Chan, one look at him, would stand up and say, you received the precepts already. Okay, so but let me formalize it for you. Okay, now, so he transmitted the precepts to him. So that's what happened. This is actually a true event in Buddhism. If you wish to receive the precepts, especially Bodhisattva precepts, and you don't have anyone to transmit it to you, you can bow to the Buddhas, you can do repentances, and if you see these auspicious signs like Buddhas and light and flowers and so forth, after a while, that's the phenomenon of you receiving the precepts. Okay, so in other words, you don't need to receive the precepts from a master, because there's quite often there aren't monks and nuns who can transmit precepts. So therefore, these people have the second option is to bow to the repentances and bow to the Buddhas and pray, and eventually they can receive obtain these auspicious signs. Okay, and that's a proof, the proof that they received the precepts. So not only him received those precepts, saw those auspicious signs, but also another monk also saw it as well, and few other people. So that's what happened. So it's legitimate. If you do that in Buddhism, then you have received the precepts, and you don't need Fa Chan to certify you anymore. Okay, so what Fa Chan did again is not necessary. He says, let me formalize it for you. And what for? To put his name on a certificate, or that people know he transmitted Bodhisattva Precepts? To me, it's a waste of time. Move on. You must have other things to do. Then do something is really not necessary anymore. Okay, but that's the early days of Chan. Mahayana in China. Okay, so that's why I'm glad that I met Master Shenhua because only it takes a person like him to impress me. His disciples are extremely advanced as well, very advanced as well. At least used to be advanced as well. But they never impressed me, unfortunately. Whereas none of them ever impressed me. That's my curse. I wish one of them, at least one of them, man or woman, would have impressed me, then I wouldn't have to look for a good advisor. Okay, but none of them impressed me. So if I met Fa Chan, I would walk out and say, you're no different from an externalist trying to show off. That's not Buddhism at all. You cannot. Spiritual penetrations, let me put it this way for you. From my perspective, spiritual penetrations excuse me, I get emotional, are an impediment to your getting enlightened, not an aid. Okay? You don't need spiritual penetrations to become enlightened, number one. Number two, after you're enlightened, you don't need spiritual, it's better not to have spiritual penetration because you progress a lot quicker, even. Okay? You won't be bogged down by trying to impress people, trying to live up to your images of a enlightened person who has certain abilities. It has nothing to do with Buddhism. That's why I like Master Shenhua's teaching so much. He's the only one who never stressed that. Okay? Everyone else, he's the only one who never tried to impress me at all. Everyone else tried to impress me. With their status, with their money, with their kindness and so forth, and their temples and their disciples and so forth. Okay, and for some reason, I was never impressed by that, unfortunately. All right, anyone else? Yes. 7.
So Master Fa Chan was the same one that his little brother got killed for killing an elephant in India?
I think it's a different guy. Okay, that's why it's convoluted. Is in India, they moved to another country, and moved to another country, and moved to China, and so forth. So these are the early days of Chinese Buddhism, where the people were not ready to be taught yet. So that's why the patriarchs didn't come. Patriarchs came when people were ready to be taught. In what sense? In what sense? The patriarch's job now begin to understand. Before I couldn't understand what is the patriarchs do. Now, looking back and looking at what this current patriarch is doing versus what Master Shenhua versus Fa Chan and so forth, we begin to see patriarch's job is to make sure you are enlightened. So that's you can tell that Fa Chan is not a patriarch. He's about showing off. Okay, Master Shenhua's lasting legacy is that he has a lot of enlightened disciples. Yes, 5.
Tuha asks, can we take the Bodhisattva precepts for a specified time period, or do we have to take them for life?
You have to take them for life. Thank you for the question. You cannot renounce them. Okay, well, you can, but once you renounce them, you can't take them again, as far as I remember. Okay, in general, I don't feel that the Bodhisattva precepts are that important, not as important as the way the Chinese insist on taking them. It's a good thing to take them, that's fine. But I have 2 problems. Number 1, the Chinese don't quite understand the Bodhisattva precepts. I don't. Okay? And therefore, for me to teach you something that I don't quite understand, I would not feel good about it, because I don't want you to ask me questions that I don't understand. Okay? For example, let me be specific. Bodhisattva precepts, unlike the Bodhisattva precepts, our precepts, the 5 precepts, 10 precepts, Bhikshu precepts, Bhikshuni precepts, and all those precepts, this clearly we have the literature to explain the precepts in details. And that there is a Dharma, all the Dharma behind that is tremendously profound. I love. But when I went to Taiwan to learn precepts, I read 3 books about Bodhisattva precepts, and they're not as detailed as Master Shenhua's explanation. Master Shenhua's explanation, actually, the one published by DRBA is not Master Shenhua's explanation either. It's from a monk who came here, and Master Shenhua asked him to explain the Bodhisattva precepts. And I have a problem with that. That monk is not very good. Okay, I looked at his explanation later. I said, this is a little bit shallow. It's not what the precept is designed to do. So that itself, I feel that from what my knowledge of the Bodhisattva precepts, where I learned in Taichung, in Nanputo, they are not specialists in Bodhisattva precepts. And so I don't have the details about infractions and what constitutes infraction, what constitutes exception, all those things you need to know in order to practice the precepts. Okay, I don't have those things. And number 2, when you have an infraction, what do? So these people, these books say if you have these violations, then you can refer back to the Bhikshu precepts and all those things for interpretation. Okay, and that to me is still incomplete information. I don't like it. So that's why, since I don't have enough information, I don't want to waste time pursuing it until I have better information, complete information, so that we can say, oh, yeah, these are Bodhisattva precepts. That's why they're there. Okay, I know if I give you a precept number 117 in Bhikshu precept. There's a reason for that. Okay, but I'm not clear about the Bodhisattva precepts, honestly. Okay, so that's why I don't take them seriously. I mean, I don't teach them because I don't understand enough. Okay, nor do I have time to look into it. Okay, I wish I could have time to sit down and go through the books and then decide what it's for. But I feel that maybe in the future, my disciples, next generation or next, I hope that you guys will have enough, that you're willing to invest a little bit of what you have, what I give you, so that the next generation will be willing to investigate the precepts, because I feel the precepts are critical to enlightenment. Okay, and so it's worth investigating. I just never had the chance to do it, and the materials are in Chinese, so therefore my Chinese is not that good. Seriously, my old Chinese skills are not that advanced, and therefore I struggle. So it's too time-consuming for me to really dig into it. When there is things that I need to explain to you that I understand, like Flower Adornment Sutra, at least I understand more than you. So, and my spending time to do it for you is more productive than me trying to understand the precepts. That's for myself primarily. Okay, so that's why I don't feel that I have conditions with Bodhisattva Precepts, and they are not that important to my work, in the sense that my disciple got very far without the Bodhisattva Precepts, much further than all the Chinese disciples of Master Hsuan. I mean, all his disciples who received the precepts, the Bodhisattva Precepts. So that's why I don't look at them as being very useful based on facts. But however, you wish to take a precept, you should. But don't expect me to be helpful to you. Yes, 8.
Mô Phật bạch thầy. Bạch thầy không có mạng tới Bồ Tát giới hoặc tới A La Hán rồi thì thầy đó thầy chăm chú về đó cho chúng sanh để đi giảng sanh đi Tây phương thôi. Thầy lo cái chuyện đó là quá mệt rồi, để lo mấy cái kia là làm sao mà lo nữa thầy.
Yeah, precisely. Thank you. Precisely, it's a matter of limited resources. I don't have a king to support me, nor am I willing to kowtow to anyone to support me. Okay, the problem with people is that as soon as they support you, they think they own you. That's a problem I always had in the past. People help me, or people come to the temple and say, I will help you, I will support you. Basically, they feel that I owe them. And my Buddhism is not like that. My Buddhism is quite the exact opposite. My Buddhism, the first thing we do in my Buddhism is to give. To give. What is giving? Giving is that you give because you're supposed to, and you have the chance to. You're supposed to give, and now there's a chance if someone comes over and asks you for help, you say, okay, I help you. Okay? That's our giving. We don't go out and say, I give. I'm a giver. No, we're willing to give. Okay? We're ready to give. But when conditions arise, we'll give. But not, we're going to go out there and say, I want to be known as a giver, I'm going to do charity thing and do other thing. It's not what we do. Okay? So giving to me is a necessity under the circumstances. Okay? You could call me passive because you could say that I am giving too passively. So be it. Okay? So, however, after you give, okay? After you give, you're supposed to forget all about it. As soon as you give, it's nothing. You don't remember anything. You don't remember who you give to. That's the giving that we're practicing. Okay? So we give freely. Once you give, you forget about it. You don't give and say, I've been giving to you, I've been helping you, and now you owe me. So you think I'm going to spend the rest of my life accepting your help so that I remember, that person helped me, that person doesn't help me, that person helped me more. So I have a ranking of people who help me more and more, and therefore I need to remember how much I owe. I mean, that's not our giving at all. Okay? So that's the problem I have with getting people to help me out or owing people. But people can't help it. People are attached to it. They say, I give you and all this time, I've supported you all this time, and you don't have any special consideration for me. I make sacrifices from my, and yet you are not appreciative of me. I said, I am appreciative of you. That's why I forgot about whatever you did for me. I don't know. Does it make sense to you? Well, that's because I'm teaching you that giving. If you give to me, I take it, I remember you give it to me, then I'm practicing a different kind of giving that the Bodhisattva and the Buddhas are teaching. You know what I mean? That's my constraint. So it's always a problem every day for me. Someone will give me something, Master, they come to me and say, and I say, I'm so happy. But you know what? As soon as I put it in my pocket, I don't remember who gave it to me. So that's a giving I'm practicing, and because of that, people are not happy with me. He said, Master is a user. He takes from me, and then he doesn't even remember my face, my name. He's a con man, Clearly, I wrote a check for him. It's a big check, but once I put it in my bank account, I forget about it. As soon as it clears, okay. But what she said, I really appreciate. The things in life where I'm a small-time monk with no support, with no one, taking me seriously. So I do things I can do, okay? And one of the things we do is Pure Land, because Master Shinwa didn't expound on the Pure Land Dharma door that much. He should have done it. He did, but his disciples didn't get it. So that's why one of my work that I need to do is the Pure Land. Meaning that, number one, first and foremost, help people get the Pure Land. Okay? It's not talk. You talk. Pure Land is not about talk. Pure Land is about you getting there. You know it's the best place for you. What are you waiting for? If you know it's the best place for you after this, make sure you go there. Okay? That's if you're a Pure Land person, you don't believe in Amitabha Buddha, then what you ought to do is make sure you go there after you're dead. Okay? And if you really believe in Amitabha Buddha, it's so obvious to me. You really believe in Amitabha Buddha, you make sure your parents go there. You make sure your grandparents go there. Okay? You make sure your dead baby goes there. That's, to me, that's what speaks loudly how much you believe. Okay? Not, you say, hello, I adore you, I worship you, I revere you, you're my teacher, like the king. Okay? So that's what has to happen first, is that Pure Land Dharma door is about faith. Okay? I'm not talking about anyone's faith, I'm talking about your faith. That's all that matters to me, okay? Yeah, because what happened to these people out there, you have 100,000 people who believe in Pure Land Dharma door, they actually really don't believe at all. That's why they don't get reborn. Okay? If you have true faith, you will get to the Pure Land. You don't have faith at all, you will not get to the Pure Land. Okay? And that's number one. So part of my work is make sure that build your faith. Okay? And it takes time. And number two is you need to understand how to practice the Pure Land Dharma door, which I happen to feel is one of the most advanced Buddhist dharmas that Master Hsuan Hua never taught them. Okay, so that is, it consumes all my resources and my time and my body and my strength already. Well, how do I find time to research, Bodhisattva Precepts and all this stuff? Okay. I have other obligations. Yes, 8.
Mô Phật và Thầy lãnh cái sứ mệnh lại thế giới này để độ chúng sanh, để đi về Tây Phương thì chỉ lo một con đường này thôi, chứ lo nhiều quá làm sao mà Thầy gánh nổi để Mô Phật. Cái đó là cái nguyện của con, là đối với cái giảng sanh cái giảng sanh Tây Phương là của Thầy, là cái bằng đó là xuất sắc nhất đó. Thì con ước nguyện như vậy đó, ước nguyện là Thầy phải một ngày nào có được cái thành công. Thì cái sứ mệnh của Thầy là lãnh cái trách nhiệm này. Để Thầy không có lo lắng cái gì mà để nhiều để ấy. Mô Phật.
Master, I felt that your mission is to cross over living being to help them to get rebirth to the Pure Land. So you should only focus on one task. If you do so many things, it will be out of your capacity. So that is also my wish, my vow, that you are like the number one teacher about Pure Land, and I wish that you will be successful in your mission to help people to the Pure Land, and then you don't have to worry about anything else.
Well, it's not as simple as that. It's true that one of my projects is to make sure that we propagate Pure Land Buddhism, because it is the tool for us to help living beings without saying we're helping living beings. Okay? On the other hand, it's not as simple as it sounds. There's no Pure Land without Chan. There's part of the Pure Land practice is Chan. So if you hear someone who says, I'm a Pure Land specialist, I only teach you how to recite the Buddha's name, I would tell you this person does not quite understand Pure Land Buddhism at all. You look at the Pure Land patriarchs, many of them came from the Chan side. Okay, so that's why the Pure Land they taught is actually comprehensive, complete. Okay, so that's why I have to teach both Chan and Pure Land in parallel. Okay, and I have the luxury of doing that because Master Hsuan Hua set up the foundations already, the foundations of Chan. So all I have to do is use the Wei Yang lineage type of training to train people. So that's all due to Master Hsuan Hua's. Okay, so and that's useful to help train people in the Pure Land school as well. If you only train people by reciting Buddha's name, you won't be as effective at all in training them. So then you have Chan. So I have to teach Chan, but then you look at that and you say, but if Chan is a faster way to become enlightened, okay, then you have to run into this problem. My disciples are enlightened, Okay? And then what? My disciples are going to the Pure Land. And then what? Now I have to find something for them to do. Because I can't say, I'm done, Where are they going to go? Second patriarch? Really? I don't know how I'm going to send him over. So that's why I have to continue to explain sutras. You see my problem? I have to continue to explain sutras because it will help all those people at the advanced level as well as low level. Okay? So now I can't ignore the sutras. At the same time, as we talk about this, you realize it's just not about spiritual penetrations. It's about morality. The foundation of Buddhism is about purity. So you have to teach purity as well. Otherwise, you cannot become enlightened. You see? And then, like Fa Chan, he has to fight these ghosts. So do we. Your wife is depressed. Your wife's bipolar. And no one can help them. Can we ignore that? Okay? And so that's why overall you have to do all five. You cannot simply say, I teach Pure Land or Chan alone, or teachings alone, or tantras alone, or precepts alone. You have to teach all of Mahayana. And I found myself in a position where I have to do it because the other guy is not. He's running out of time. I'm running out of time. It takes 10 years to 20 years to train a good person to the point where he or she becomes an asset. Okay? And I'm running out of time. I don't have time anymore. I'm not crazy about this business. Okay? But because it's not being done, I can't ignore it. I can't ignore it because the Buddha is right behind me. He came to my house. And I've been sitting here since 2000, old monk. When did the Sirius come? 2013, yes? 2013. He's been here since 2013. He's been here for 8 years now. I ignored him for the first 3 years. I said, oh Lord, make sure they go away. They're known to fly away by themselves. So I said, I'm no good. I have no resource. I have no interest, okay? I'm Mahayana. I don't do relics. Please fly away. Or someone please come and claim it, okay? I'm just holding it for now. And I have another organization already. If they come, I would give it to them, honestly. I said, if they come and ask for it, I say, of course, it's yours. I don't have the means, I don't have the conditions or the authority to keep these things. But no one came. Life really sucks. So you see, you have the Buddha behind you, sitting in your house for 8 years. You're going to ignore him? How long can you ignore him? So he's here. So this is my dilemma. He's here. He's not moving. So I have to serve him. When Buddha comes, you have to feed him. You have to take care of the Buddha. Reluctantly. And it's because the Buddha came when Master Sriho's disciples almost killed my career. And I said, his disciple killed my career, fantastic. Then I don't owe him anything anymore. He gave me my skills, my training, but then he decided to let his disciple kill me, kill my career, so I don't have to do anything anymore. It's perfect. So I said, I was so glad. I said, this is so fantastic. I could not ask for a better outcome. Okay. So I was ready to die. Okay. And walk away. And then the relics came. The Buddha said, you can't die. So in 3 years' time, my career was recovered. It's typical. It happens quite a few months. They got these evil people who are bent upon destroying their name and their reputation, and these monks would have to run away to another country very far away to rebuild their name, their support, and so forth. I was ready to wait until it dries up and then walk away. What's there to run away from? With no one to teach, then I go do my things. So anyway, so that's how it is. You do what you can. You try your best. That's all we have to offer. Yes, 5.
Tuha asks, how is taking the Bodhisattva precepts different from becoming a left home person? And once you take the Bodhisattva precepts, does it mean that you cannot get married?
You can get married. If you take the Bodhisattva precepts, you can get married, but you cannot have sex. So you can be married by name, like Master Shewa says. Okay? Why not? The Chinese are into it. But what's the difference between the Bodhisattva precepts and the monks and non-precepts? The difference is that I feel that the monks and non-precepts are much more comprehensive, much more useful to me in helping you become enlightened. The Bodhisattva precepts maybe are more geared towards you practicing the Bodhisattva path. Okay? So maybe that they're useful in that. But to me, the more useful precepts are the Bhikshu precepts and Bhikshuni precepts. Bhikshuni precepts are beautiful. Okay? Precepts are marvelous. They are ingenious. They're incredible jewels in Buddhism that people don't understand anymore. Okay, so that's why, to me personally, again, I need to say to me personally, because I must admit to you that I don't understand thoroughly the Bodhisattva precepts. That's why you have to take what I say with a grain of salt. I only understand part of it, okay? I understand more about the Bhikshu precepts, the Sangha side. And so that's why, to me, with my limited time and my limited knowledge, I find that the Bhikshu side, the Bhikshuni side, are enough for me to do my job, to do my work, meaning that it worked so far without me having to teach Bodhisattva precepts. So why should I bother? Leave it to the next generation for you to do something, have something to do. If I do everything, then you have nothing else to do. Now, if I do everything, I leave very early too. Okay? It's like you have so much, you can go so much on a tank of gas. And you use up too much, then you have to leave early, like Master Shenhua. Yes, 5.
Jason K. asks, the sutras say precepts produce samadhi and samadhi produces wisdom. Does this mean that the more precepts you're able to keep, the higher your samadhi?
Not really. It's not how it works. See, this is why the Chinese, the way they teach themselves, are to me are confusing. It's too confusing to me the way the Chinese train their own kind. Because I look at Master Hsuan Hua's, how he trained his people, and how he trained, what his Heng disciples have been doing to the Qin generation. I find it to be too inefficient, too Chinese. Not impressed. I'm glad I was in the system. Okay, it's not like that. So the difference between the Bodhisattva precepts versus the Bhikshu precepts is, to me personally, the Bhikshu precepts, because of my knowledge, because of our track record, is much more useful than the Bodhisattva precepts. Okay. Remember, Bhikshu precepts, like Bhikshus have 250, nuns have 348, whereas Bodhisattva precepts are 10 plus 48. So you have 58 precepts. So you see the level details are much more on the Sangha side. And that is a lot more useful to me. Okay. So that's why in the future, I hope your future generations will exploit the Bodhisattva precepts. First, if I were you, I hope that you will first investigate the precepts, understand them thoroughly. Don't be just like the way the Chinese understand right now is very superficial. It's no good. Okay, so understand thoroughly, and then practice them, and find out for yourself. Okay. There's a lot of work left to do. There's plenty of work for you to do. I can't do everything. Okay. All right. Time is up. Thank you, everyone.